The project is now entering into a design phase thanks to the first financial support of the European Commission Directorate General for Research and Innovation. Two renowned international research centers, CERN in Geneva and GSI FAIR in Darmstadt, are providing generous support to the host, the SEEIST design phase, until the site in the sea region has been selected. Capacity building for the future operation of the facility will be supported by the International Atomic Energy Agency. We are very pleased and honored that today's addresses by international organization will be delivered by Mrs. Signe Razzo, Deputy Director General of European Commission Directorate General for Research and Innovation, Professor Fernando Quevedo, Director of the Abdus Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics, Mr. Ronald De Bruyn, Director of the Coast Association, European Cooperation in Science and Technology, and Mr. Roberto Antonione, Secretary General of Center European Initiative. Mrs. Signe Razzo, please take the floor.
Dear Minister Sanja Damjanovic, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, government representatives, representatives of international science organizations, Professor Quevedo, Director De Bruyn, Secretary General Antonione, Professor Schopper, distinguished scientists, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be here with you at this very, very important event. In the lovely city of Budva. This is my second time to be in Montenegro, and since we first met with Minister Sanja Damjanovic here, and also with your Prime Minister Duško Marković, at that time I've heard that a lot has already been achieved and a lot of progress has been made on the project. But now, before becoming to the project, let me say a few more words about the contribution of research and innovation to the development of the area, of this region in particular. Last week, as you know, President-elect of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, presented the College of Commissioners. Previously, she had also unveiled her strategic priorities. And you've noticed that further integration of the Western Balkans into the EU is high up on her agenda. Cooperation in research and innovation can clearly strongly contribute to this objective. Even more so as the next Commissioner-elect of Innovation and Youth, Maria Gabriel, will bring together the portfolios of science, education, youth and innovation. She also comes from this region, so I guess that cooperation with and within the Western Balkans will be really close to her heart. What I've seen as I represent the DG of Research and Innovation in the Commission. So clearly, we've already seen in the current framework program, Horizon 2020, to which all Balkan countries can fully participate, and most of them are already fully associated, already offers plenty of opportunities for researchers in the region to work with their EU counterparts, to build excellence, to share access to research infrastructures, to develop key enabling technologies, and also to find practical research-based solutions to societal challenges. I was really moved when I listened this morning to Prime Minister, who described in detail the advantages of the Hadron technology to fight cancer, to find actually better ways and more efficient and more patient-friendly ways how to fight against cancer. You know that also for the new Commission, fighting against cancer is one of the priorities. You also know that this is one of the missions for our Horizon Europe. So clearly, I think that there will be very good linkages to be made with this project on a wider perspective. Now, coming back to the participation of your countries, I know that also the other countries are represented here in this forum. We've seen that already there is a good participation in the current program. Since 2017, there has been 50% of increase from the region. And if we compare also the budget allocated to the beneficiaries in the region, this has actually, the growth has tripled. But this is not just about the money. There are clearly broader benefits from Horizon 2020 and also from the future program, such as opportunities to tackle global challenges together, to have access to new networks, to infrastructures like the one that you aim to build in the region. In today's information age, science is a cross-border endeavor. And by strengthening the networks and also pooling out investments like SEEIST projects aim to do, can clearly develop a better and more performant environment for research and innovation. Also, you know that we aim to be the first region in the world to be the climate neutral and sustainable society by 2050. Clearly, this will not be achieved without the contribution of science, research and innovation. So there is a lot that actually can be contributed by research and innovation. It's also very critical for the EU priorities. We want a sustainable, we want fair and prosperous society for our people and also for our planet. You know that 35% of the budget of Horizon Europe, the next framework program, will be devoted for topics addressing climate change. We also engage to achieve sustainable development goals. We'd also like to make better linkages with the citizens, so that they also understand what very clear benefits research and innovation can bring to them. And clearly, as health is one of the topics which is always very high up on the agenda for everybody, as we all want to be healthy, then clearly also the research innovation that can bring in this aspect are clearly very important. Now, let me say also a couple of words about the EU perspective for the Balkans. You know that the process towards EU membership has a powerful transformative effect, which triggers positive democratic, political, economic and societal changes. I was also glad to listen to your Prime Minister earlier today, who also spoke how actually ambitions to become a full member of the European Union have actually also helped to transform Montenegro into a modern society. The European Union has already provisionally closed enlargement negotiations with Montenegro and Serbia for the chapter on science and research. So you are fully well progressing towards full integration into the European research area. I understand also that the region is engaged in establishing national smart specialization strategies that identify key research and innovation areas, including measures to support competitiveness and growth. The colleagues in the Joint Research Centre of the Commission have done excellent work in facilitating this process. Before summer, Montenegro was the first one at submitting its smart specialization strategy, and the Commission services are currently assessing those. We are also looking forward to receive Serbia's smart specialization plans soon. So implementing those will need the efforts of cross-ministerial work. of all the ministries within the government. It seems that sustainable development, agriculture and food are key priorities for you. This is also fully in line in the new mission approach of the Commission, because as you know, we've identified climate change, fight against cancer, soil health and food, smart cities and healthy oceans as mission areas. But I'd like to say that the missions are not about research. Clearly, researchers have an important contribution to the missions, but we need all different policies to be supportive. For instance, if fighting against cancer, you also need the support of the health policy. When we speak about smart cities, we need environmental regulation. We need also the devotion of the mayors of the cities. We need all players to come together in order to achieve these objectives. Strong national R&I investments actually underpin successful participation in Horizon 2020 and vice versa. Participation in our framework program is also essential to make national R&I system internationally competitive. I know that Minister Damjanovic has a great role and also the support of Prime Minister in order to bring the objective of 1% of national funding to become real. And I also encourage the other countries in the region to also invest more in research and innovation. Now, finally, coming here today to celebrate the conclusion of the first step, but actually also realizing that there is still a lot of work ahead. Now, in order for the SEEIST to become a reality, first, what you will need and what you already had is to have a vision. And I'm glad that clearly Commissioner Moedas pointed out that Professor Schopper had this vision that something like CERN or Sesame can actually happen in the region here. Then you will need the political support. Here in Montenegro, you clearly have the support of the Prime Minister. Likewise, you've also been able at the Prime Minister's level to have the support of 6 governments to give the support to this project, which is clearly essential. And then you also need someone, as always, when it comes to successful projects, then it's all up to the people. And I'm really glad that you have Sanja Damjanovic, someone who's really devoted and committed to this project, and who has been really been also able to have the support of so many institutions. We are hearing from them in a few seconds, but also to have the support of the region to this project. So here I'm today here to hear more about the progress that has been made and also have come here to witness the motivation and also the engagement of various stakeholders in the Balkans and beyond. With Antares in Novi Sad, we have already a center of excellence in the area of ICT and agriculture. With ELI, we have world-class laser facilities in Bucharest and Szeged. In Trieste, there is Electra, since decades a lighthouse of research and innovation. Their success is based on a long series of European research projects, which have been driven by enthusiasm of researchers. They are also concrete examples of joint world-class science installations that have profound research innovation impact across Southeast Europe. So I wish that, well, clearly you can use also those as a model, and I wish you interesting presentations, discussions today, and I can assure you that European Commission has been and will be following this initiative closely and will be supportive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Razzo. Now we will proceed with a video address by Mr. Yang Daju, Deputy Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Your Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to address you today at your meeting on the Southeast European International Institutes for Sustainable Technologies, or SEEIST. Allow me to congratulate you on your progress in moving from the concept to the design phase. I regret I can't be with you in person today. The IEA learned about this important new initiative in September 2017. And in response to a request from the relevant member states, a new 4-year regional TC project to support your efforts, focusing on human resource development, will be presented to our Board of Governors for approval in November this year. The IEA's activities cover almost everything to do with nuclear science and technology. Our strength is in transferring nuclear technology and building capacity for its peaceful use, aligning closely with the needs and the priorities of our member states. The IEA places high importance on nuclear safety and infrastructure and implementation of international standards and best practices. The success of the activities to build sustainable capacity rests on the high level of national ownership and commitment of relevant member states. To make a real progress in establishing SEEIST, you have to build on the work you have already done and strengthen the commitment of many stakeholders, the decision makers, the relevant authorities, experts, and end users. I look forward to hearing about the progress you made during the meeting, particularly as regards technical designs and phase selection. Based on this progress, we are ready to provide support through the framework of the IEA Technical Cooperation Program. I wish you every success on your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yang Daju. Now I invite Professor Fernando Quevedo, Director of the Abdus Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics, to take the floor. Please.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for the invitation. And I'm very pleased to be here, my first time in Montenegro. And I remember 2 years ago, we had a visit from Minister Damjan Monjanovic and Professor Schopper, who came to ICTP, and requesting if we could have a first meeting in Trieste to discuss these initiatives for, in general, for large research infrastructures for Southeast Europe. And of course, I couldn't say no. I totally agree with the minister. This combination is impossible to say no, because the charm, ambition, and commitment together, I think, is very special, and I think we all recognize the importance of their mission. So we had this meeting. It was early last year, January, February, if I remember correctly, And I was very impressed because in a few months they were able to attract very high-level people, both from policymakers to scientists, research scientists. So it was the first initiative, the first activity to discuss these potential projects. And so I think it was very successful. And now the last year and a half, we can see progress has been made, and I congratulate both of you and all of you who are involved with this initiative. Essentially, that fits very well with the mission of ICTP. I would say some of you may not know what ICTP is, and usually the word theoretical physics scares most of the people, or say people, what is it that it has to do with this kind of activity, which are much more experimentally minded. And so let me say a few words about ICTP, just to give the picture. So we were founded 55 years ago on the initiative of Abdul Salam, which is one of the top theoretical physicists of the 20th century. He was from Pakistan, and he couldn't go back to his country because there was no conditions for him to do research there. So after a couple of years there, he realized that it was better to come back to Europe and develop his career, but with the idea to help all the other scientists in developing countries to have a career in science. And so he made a proposal, and at the end, the IAEA, together with the Italian government, agreed to create this center in 1964. It started as researching in theoretical physics, but the idea was to be a center where people can come from every single corner of the world. And remember, it was the Cold War, and we were more or less on the border between the two sides, Trieste. And but Salam managed to attract scientists from the regions. For instance, there was a first activity in plasma physics, people coming even from the Soviet Union, people coming from the United States, and so to meet at ICTP. And that has been the idea of ICTP throughout all these 55 years. We are very proud to say we have visitors from 188 countries. We have 60 activities per year organized at ICTP, 20 that we organize abroad. We have thousands of scientists coming every year, and we work with them at ICTP and in all the countries, in particular for developing countries. From this region in the Southeast Europe, we have hundreds of scientists coming every year. I would say 200 every year, which is a good record. And now I can see has been increasing after the last year's meeting. And we have been supporting a network called CNET that I have seen Goran Đorđević, who is the leader of that, is present here in the audience. So in that sense, we have been already very much involved with the region. The other point is that since even though we are doing mostly theoretical physics, we have been expanding over the years. In 55 years, many things have happened, and we have been expanding to cover other subjects which are very much in need for all the world, like climate change, renewable energies, now even artificial intelligence, computer sciences, and so on. So we have been covering more subjects. And one thing that is difficult for us is to have a lab doing concrete experiments, because otherwise it will be extremely expensive to cover all possible fields. So we have a small equipment for mostly to support science from developing countries. We have agreements with CERN, for instance, and work in some experiments with CERN. In particular, we have an Atlas group, and through this Atlas group, we created a new program called Physics Without Frontiers. That has been becoming very, very, very successful, going to countries like Afghanistan, to Palestine and Venezuela, where scientists are in difficult conditions. So what we have learned is important for us to have partnerships with experimental institutions, and CERN has been a major one. But we also have a program called TRIL, which is Training of Researchers in Italian Laboratories. And for that, we sign agreements with hundreds of labs in the whole country, and we bring scientists to do experiments there. We pay half, and the lab pays another half. So in that sense, it is profitable for everybody. The scientists benefits to have a very good working conditions in experiments. The experimental lab benefits. We have a relatively cheap scientists working with them, and we expand our mission for that. I have to say that Over the years, we have changed, and in 1990s, UNESCO joined in the collaboration. So now it's UNESCO, IAEA, and the Italian government, and we are all UNESCO employees. And in that sense, we are United Nations. We are the only Category 1 institute of UNESCO for science, and so in that sense, our international component also I think is very important to be able to achieve all this duties. And so combining all that, I can see that that we can be helpful also in the future for this project. For instance, I have just learned that this now in Pavia, so we can have an agreement eventually with now, and then we can help people, send people there from this region to be trained there. So that could be a concrete activity. Of course, we have also worked with Elettra in Trieste. We started an activity only 5 years ago, which is a master's in medical physics, and is the official international master in medical physics, done in collaboration with the International Organization for Medical Physicists, and so that could be another source of capacity building for students from the region. But also this connection with the Union of Medical Physicists has been lasting for more than 25 years. So we have activities every year there at ICTP and abroad. So I can see that this can be a good contact point for us to work with this new project. And so essentially, well, I would like to congratulate you again for all this progress, and also just tell you that CAN with ICTP, we were very honored to be at the very beginning of this project. So we would like to be part of it since now until its full completion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Quevedo. We will now proceed with Mr. Ronald De Bruyn, Director of the Coast Association, European Cooperation in Science and Technology. Please.
Dobro utro. Good morning. It's really a pleasure to be here on the invitation of the Prime Minister and the Minister, Sanja Damjanovic. I think your name has been mentioned at least in every second sentence that I could register in the course of this morning. And I would say rightfully so. We met for the first time, I think 2 years ago, when you just took office. And we came here to have an information day on the Cost Association, of which Montenegro has become a member since 1995. And at that moment, apart from talking about cost, of course, we were very interested to learn a little bit more about what's going on in Montenegro. And then you showed me just a couple of slides. You had some ideas, you were talking to some people, and if I look into the room, I think you have managed to succeed, right? So you have managed to put this whole endeavor on pole position to start the real work. But you have paved the way in a collective effort already, and that is quite impressive. A few words about cost and why I received the invitation. COST stands for European Cooperation in Science and Technology. We are an intergovernmental organization that was established in 1971. We are in that sense the oldest and still running European network initiative even before the European framework programs were established. We currently count 38 member countries, and we recently also welcomed South Africa as a partner member. What we basically do is not so much funding the research, but we fund the networking activities themselves. Networking is essential because by pooling resources all over Europe and beyond, we are able to build up Europe's capacity to tackle not only the scientific and technological changes, but also the societal changes that Ms. Razzo was also referring to. And one of them is cancer, beating cancer. and we have many more missions to look at. So cost is about networking, and in concrete terms, we finance networks that can organize conferences, they can organize training schools, there's short-term mobility to facilitate brain circulation rather than brain drain, and I think that is one of the appealing features, certainly also for this region. And all different kinds of dissemination activities, and these networks typically run for a period of 4 years. So that is, in a nutshell, what COST does as its core business. We have 3 strategic priorities. These priorities, in our opinion, are sound until the end of the next framework program, and first and foremost, that is to promote and spread excellence. As the Commissioner already said, science has no borders. I always say excellence has no borders. There's excellence everywhere, and our challenge as COST is to make sure that all the excellent talents around the globe are connected and get together to look at, let's say, the challenges that we are facing today. We have very much, let me put it in another way. We have a focus on interdisciplinarity. And why is interdisciplinarity important? Because if you bring together people from different scientific fields with different perspectives on the problems at hand, you come to different insights and hopefully breakthroughs that actually are needed to make progress in a society that is becoming increasingly complex. So interdisciplinarity is key. We invite interdisciplinarity because our call for proposals is completely bottom-up. We do not prescribe any specific scientific field, so all the proposals are made based on the initiative of the science community. And we select the best, the excellent proposals that emerge from that call. And in addition to that, and that is truly unique, COST is able to leverage on its network of national contacts in all the member states that are part of COST to appoint researchers from all over the place to help facing that challenge as articulated in the proposal. Last but not least, I would also like to mention that we really like to invest in the next generation. Boosting the careers of young researchers is essential. We just had a short conversation with the Prime Minister and the Minister, and I think he was exactly pointing to the fact that what is needed is the connectedness, the cooperation, the collaboration, and also to make sure that your talent is not only educated, but is also exposed to experiences in other laboratories. And COST is exactly facilitating that kind of short-term mobility. And of course, for them to come back. That is very important. Now, to make this a little bit more tangible, we have recently organized a stakeholder event on cancer research. And we had the pleasure of contribution, an active contribution from the Minister. And you have to imagine we had people from 35 different networks participating in COST in the room. And at the same time, all different kinds of other organizations and initiatives, including also representatives from the European Commission. Mr. Reinhard Butcher, your colleague, was there, knowing, of course, that cancer research will be most likely one of the missions in the room. And I must say, you deeply impressed not only the policymakers, but also the scientists in the room by explaining the necessity of SEEIST, not only from an organizational point of view, but really pointing out from a scientific point of view what is going on in this project and what the contribution it could make to beating cancer. Now, these kind of stakeholder events we organize quite regularly. In a sense, we try to build also the bridges to other parts of the European research area through, for example, the global networking. I mentioned South Africa, but we will probably pursue partner membership of other countries. We also are reaching out to the policymakers by pooling into our network of 45,000 different researchers who are all together a huge resource in providing evidence-based policy advice to policymakers. We also have put in place an academy. It's a training program for COST participants who are able to follow all different kinds of trainings, whether it is a training on the financial parts or on the leadership capabilities, where we invest in the young generation to be better equipped and to take leadership responsibility in those networks. And certainly also a new initiative where we invite the networks to explore a little bit more their innovation potential. And that altogether should build the bridges to other initiatives and other parts of the European research area, positioning us as the COST Association as the networking tool in this arena. So what can COST, and I'd like to point out a very concrete example, what can COST do for SEEIST? Because we are here to help, basically, and we have all those wonderful networks. But of course, it works only if you are participating. And the beauty of COST is that our networks are open, even while they are running for new participants. So let me just give you one example. We have in this region 3 institutes, and this is not just a random selection, the Sofia University in Bulgaria. We have the University of SS Cyril and Methodius in Skopje. We have also a clinic of oncology and radiotherapy in Montenegro. So what does it mean for those kind of organizations when participating in COST? Well, there is one network focusing on biomarkers, and the Republic of North Macedonia is involved, and their institute in Skopje can already apply for short-term mobility schemes in that network. For example, to have short-term scientific missions to get the knowledge and experience from, for example, the International Agency for Research and Cancer based in Lyon, and then to come back and nurture, let's say, the SEEIST initiative. Another example, the Clinic for Oncology and Radiotherapy here in Montenegro could, in the same action, also benefit from an exchange within the region. In this case, we identified also an opportunity linked to the Institute for Oncology and Radiology in Serbia. So it's just next door, but still, these short-term mobilities are also paid. And we have a small, modest, but still helpful, I think, amount of 3,500 euros for people to travel and to stay there and to come back. By the same token, Sofia University, so we clearly see an opportunity for them to go, for example, completely in a different area, to a university in Linköping, in Scandinavia, in Sweden, where there is a Department of Clinical and Experimental Medicine. So to make it very concrete, the added value of COST to the SEEIST endeavor is really to leverage on the networks that we have built. We have only in the field of cancer research already 35 actions, and action participants in an action typically are sized up to 150 researchers. So you can imagine the potential of the expertise that you can leverage on to the benefit of this project. So I would like to conclude here by thanking you very much again for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. You already had my support, but you will continue to have my support, and I'm sure that we will see each other again in the next phase of SEEIST. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. De Bruyn. Now I invite Mr. Roberto Antonione, Secretary General of Central European Initiative.
Dear Minister Sanja Damjanovic, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to share this opening session with distinguished speakers from key institutions of international science cooperation. I wish to start by thanking, first of all, Prime Minister Duško Marković, and of course the Minister Sanja Damjanović for hosting here today in this beautiful venue and in this beautiful country. Montenegro has always been a very active member of the Central European Initiative since its accession in 2006. Against a positive background, I'm glad that Montenegro has enthusiastically accepted to take over the CI chairmanship next year, and I am confident it will be a successful CI presidency. As you know, the CI was launched exactly 30 years ago as the first forum for regional cooperation in Europe. Since then, our organization has grown in terms of geographical outreach. With its 17 member states, it is the largest forum for regional cooperation in Europe. And in terms of its activities, through the design and implementation of regional projects reinforcing our core business, which was and still remains is multilateral diplomacy. Our mission is very clear and straightforward. We promote regional cooperation for European integration and sustainable development through a combination of multilateral diplomacy and project management. Science can play a crucial role in attaining this goal. For this reason, the CI was always put international scientific cooperation high on its agenda and plan of action. This has always been facilitated by the location of the CI Secretariat in Trieste, an important innovation hub with several centers of excellence. One of them, the International Center for Theoretical Physics, and we have the pleasure to have the Director General, Quevedo, here, hosted an important meeting, as you mentioned before, in January 2018, which marked a significant step in the development of Southeast European International Institute for Sustainable Technologies. ICTP, along with CERN, perfectly shows how international research infrastructures can help unite nations and bridge political and development divides by pursuing common scientific goals. Since the 16th, when it was founded, ICTP was provided an open space, and Professor Quevedo said so, for scientists from all over the world to meet and to cooperate, including the Cold War period. It was and still is a successful model that I'm sure will inspire an initiative like yours. The project of an international research infrastructure in the Western Balkans will be key not only to promote scientific progress and sustain brain circulation against brain drain, but also to enhance economic, social, and territorial cohesion of Southeast Europe. Finally, this would have a positive impact on the EU accession path of the Western Balkans, one of the main CI political goals. At the same time, we cannot disregard that the establishment of such a center of excellence requires a huge effort that involves several stakeholders, including diplomats and other actors in the real and international relations. It is therefore a clear and practical example of what is now called science diplomacy, a topic the CI intends to explore in the next future. As a first step in this direction, we are carrying out a research activity with the University of Trieste to analyze the different nation approaches to science diplomacy across the CI area. To the best of our knowledge, there are no specific studies on science diplomacy focusing on the CI countries. We are trying to fill this gap by gathering inputs and knowledge to promote further networking and training activities related to science diplomacy. Once finalized, we will be more than happy to share the results of this research among our member states and with the institutions that are here today. This will probably be carried out next year under the Montenegro presidency. I also wish to remark that 2020 will be an important year for science cooperation, also because Trieste is hosting the Euro Science Open Forum, the European largest interdisciplinary event on science, which will gather participants and speakers from all over the world. I would like to conclude by encouraging you to make use of the CEI as a platform where the community of science, diplomats, and policymakers can openly meet and cooperate. I believe that the open discussion and the fruitful exchange between scientists and diplomats is essential to support an ambitious project such as establishment of the Eastern European International Institute for Sustainable Technologies. As a well-rooted intergovernmental organization, the CEI is ready and available to do its part, both by supporting the development of SEEIST and by promoting further activities in the domain of science diplomacy for the benefit of our member states. Thank you so much for your attention.